Okay, here we go. All right, do you have any questions? All right, first of all, Edgar, here's the first question I'd like to ask, if I may. The first question I'd like to ask is, on April 20th last year, a little over a year ago, you spoke, of course, at the X Conference 2009, and then you appeared at the National Press Club, and as part of the press conference, which was covered by CNN and the Washington Post and the Washington Times, etc., and broadcast by CNN worldwide, you called on the Obama administration to end a truth embargo, to disclose, to release all the UFO files. It's the first person that I'm aware of that has done that of your stature. There were some people that did that back in 2001, and it's happened. You had a lot of news coverage for a couple of weeks. In the year since, have you gotten much follow-up? Has there been a lot of negative, positive? How do you reflect back on what's happened since?
Well, for the last year or so, it's been pretty heavy. I've gotten many inquiries from around the world, done many interviews from around the world, and I see the momentum picking up. Now, I understand that it's not just our administration here that makes this decision, but I think the movement, the momentum is moving toward disclosure the world over, and certainly people the world over are becoming more open to it.
Would you say that overall, overall you've had a relatively much more positive than negative response to your call on this issue?
Well, I'm not sure it's just my efforts, but I think the whole movement has been gaining momentum over the last couple of years or so.
Okay, very good. I think George has a question for you.
When I first got to know Edgar Mitchell, he had written the book, The Way of the Explorer, which I found to be a fascinating book about his work in the realm that we are all interested in. Edgar, I've always wanted to ask you, what drives you to try to get the answers to what we're all looking for as well? You have not stopped in all the years I have known you. Why do you keep at it?
Well, it's the ultimate question, George. I think humans have been asking this question in one form or another for hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years. Who are we? How do we get here? Where are we going? And what's this all about? And it's that ultimate curiosity that drives me continuously. I want to know some answers that we really don't have. And we think we're pretty smart in the 21st century, in the 20th century. But in my opinion, we're still just barely out of the trees.
Okay, Cheryl's got a question for you.
All right, Dr. Mitchell, good to see you again.
Thank you. Good to see you.
There she is.
Hello.
Hello.
It was fun last year sitting with you at the table, though, right with George Norrie and you, and we like to have you here in person, but this year this is second best, isn't it?
Just
out of curiosity, could you bring us up to date on how Quantrek is doing? And
well, Quantrek has great hopes. We have a lot of people interested. We still are short on funding. We need more funding, and we're going out after that very actively at this point. And hopefully, we've got some promises. We've got some interested investors, and we'll see what the next few months brings.
Edgar, for the audience, could you quickly describe Quantrek's mission?
I'm sorry, say that
Could you quickly describe Quantrek's mission?
Okay, Quantrek is a sister organization to my Noetics Foundation, but more focused on the hard sciences of physics and biology. And we now understand, just in the recent years, that the quantum world is at the basis of our perceptual mechanism. I often tell little simple stories to help get the idea across. In the English language, we call intuition our sixth sense. If we really ought to call it our first sense, or some would even say our zero sense, because it was around before we or our solar system were around. It's more fundamental than all of our sensory mechanisms. And we're now starting to understand there's a quantum biology that's very important, and that the quantum world is really at the basis of everything. Even though it operates at the subatomic level, it has ramifications and effects at all levels of nature. And that's something that's just become apparent here in the last couple of decades.
Dr. Mitchell, Have you touched base with Dan Brown since his new book used ions so prominently?
I have not personally been in touch with Dan Brown, but I understand some of the people out at Noetics have, and I understand that Tom Hanks and crew out in Hollywood are trying to make a movie about all this, and so we're starting to, from a promotional point of view, we're starting to reach the world in a different way.
You know, it's kind of interesting, Edgar. As you know, you spoke at the press club. Had the Brown book come out last April when you were here a year ago? Had it already come out?
After that, it didn't really come out until the fall.
It came out the fall before or afterwards?
No, after I remember. I'm sure
Okay, but I think what happened is Edgar comes to the Washington, he comes to the press club, and he calls for disclosure, right? Which is highly exopolitical. Then Brown's book, The Lost Symbol, comes out. It's about Washington. It's about secrets. It's about the intricate arrangements and what have you. And he chooses to make ions a highly featured part of the book in a very positive way. It's all upscale. And because he did that, he never even asked permission. He didn't check with Edgar. He didn't check with ions. He just did it, knowing that when it came out, they'd be going, "Yay, that's fantastic." So you see the kind of the circle being closed here in a way. It's all kind of coming around. Edgar, I've got a question for you. And this gets down to the nuts and bolts, the real stuff that is going to affect the lives of just hundreds and hundreds of millions of people. It's a real simple question. Isn't the massive oil slick that's now spreading in the Gulf of Mexico a huge advertisement for why we need to know what has been done with any ET-derived technology, particularly the new energy physics? Oh, we lost him again. Edgar, we've lost you again. The sound went off. Hang on, Edgar. Let me tell you something. If you knew what had happened in the last 3 days, you guys would be picketing the CIA big time. You'd be down there with the signs, because somebody is running an op here, all right? Because the weirdness is gone over the top. And so I am so proud. All right. How are we doing, guys? We got him back? Have we got you back, Edgar? Not yet? Okay, hang on. How could we have him and then lose him? Oh, no, I know. He just went around the backside of the moon. He is out of touch. Right? And? You back? Almost. Still no?
I'm sorry.
He's back. You're back. Edgar's back. Okay. About the Gulf of oil slick, huge advertisement. We've got to get at that ET physics. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on that just a little bit, Dr. Mitchell? Could you be a little more specific?
Oh, let me ask you something. Let me rephrase this, because I know you said something at a talk out near. Well, I think it was at Ions. It was Ions a number of years ago. You are convinced that we have extraterrestrial derived technology in our laboratories and have been working on it for many years. Isn't that the case?
Well, I can conjecture or postulate that. I do not know that for an absolute fact.
Yes.
But I suspect the more I have studied, the more I've become familiar with ET and ET technology. They've been around for a long time, and we've been studying it for a long time. And the more we study it, the deeper, farther back it goes.
All right, another question from the ever more fit George Norrie.
Kidding, Edgar. Kidding.
Stuttering me.
Edgar, every time I tell people I know you and that you walked on the moon and you were part of Apollo 14, they all say, he saw things on the moon. He's just not telling us. And I have said, if Edgar Mitchell had seen things unusual on the moon, he would tell us.
You're absolutely correct.
But you believe that there has been an ET presence. How come?
Well, I believe there's been an ET presence because I grew up in the Roswell area, and that was part of the polar. And I eventually went back to Washington and I confirmed. Now, that's a long story short, but I know virtually all of the major investigators. I've been studying myself, although this isn't my primary interest, hasn't been for years. I'm pretty knowledgeable, and I do know most of the work that has been developed over the last many years, and I've been studying the work that goes back for centuries. And there seems to be a history here that we just know nothing about with our modern knowledge.
When we were here last year, Edgar, you grabbed my arm at the dinner table and said, I want to be the oldest astronaut to go back into space. There are 3 more shuttle flights left. You gonna make it?
Well, I'm not planning on those, using those, none of those. The story you're referring to, George, is happened after
Glenn.
John Glenn went back the first time at 77, and people started asking me, do I want to go back into space or go back to the moon or do whatever? And I said, of course, but I'm going to wait. And my smart-ass remark was, I'm going to wait till I'm 100 and beat John's record. Get that out into the culture and keep coming back to haunt me, so I guess I'm going to have to do it, you see.
Go ahead. Oh yeah, at 100, okay, 100, understood. But you know, Edgar, I'm looking at you and I'm seeing that kind of smile on your face. You're going back into space on anti-gravitic drive, aren't you?
I'm going back on.
You're going to go back into space on anti-gravitic drive, right? None of this chemical rocket stuff anymore.
Something like that.
The oldest man to go into warp. It could happen. All right, Edgar, another quick question. And this we'll wrap up here. As you've spoken out on this issue for 10 years, most notably the instance on Kerrang! Radio in July of 2008, massive international coverage on that, raised a lot of buzz. And then
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Okay. As you have talked about this issue for the last 10 years,
Yeah.
most notably the Kerrang! Radio interview, which generated all this buzz in Europe, right?
That one kind of broke it loose internationally with the Kerrang! Radio show. After that one, I was getting calls from all over the world almost the next week.
It's kind of interesting when you talk about something for 8 years, and then suddenly you just say it in a certain venue, and it's like you just said it for the first time. Oh my God, he thinks there's ETs, and you're running where have you been for 8 years?
Absolutely, that seems to be the way things happen.
And of course, I knew about that radio show, and of course, that's one of the reasons why I started to move very, very quickly to see if I could get you more deeply involved. And of course, at the press conference, where we got the second round of very significant coverage. And we would have had more. Your son was ill, you had to leave, otherwise you'd have been on Larry King that very night. My question is this: as you've done all this talking, do you feel the presence of Gordon Cooper just over your shoulder, who tried to bring this issue out repeatedly in the late 70s and in the 80s, and he went to the UN and so forth?
Gordon was very open about the ET presence and his experiences. Several of the astronauts, including Gordon, had experiences before their astronaut experience. They talked about that, but he continued to talk about it even very openly for many years until he passed on.
One last question, then we'll let you go. This is a little bit, well, no, this is appropriate. It's a wonky question, wonk question, W-O-N-K, from Washington at the Press Club. Your thoughts about President Obama's vision policy that he went down to Florida to talk about? What is your fundamental thinking about where he wants to go now with the space program? Or where he doesn't want to go?
What are you asking my comment? Is that what you're asking?
What are your thoughts on the administration's policy as announced by President Obama in Florida down at the Space Center, I think a few months ago?
Well, I certainly don't disagree with what he was saying. I do think we need to go back to the moon and do course for no reason, better reason, to get our experience base up again, to protect technologies, because it's a lot closer to go to Mars. Really nice to go on to Mars, I believe. And I think I applaud the president trying to get the entrepreneurial and the business community, industrial community more involved in taking the lead. He's got an awfully tough job on his hand correcting the excesses of the collapse of the global economic system and our own economic system that he's had to deal with. So I don't fault him for some of the decisions he's made, but he is suggesting we need to move forward, and we need to get the industrial community involved, and we do need to go on, and I totally agree with all of those.
All right, Edgar, I know that in just an hour or two you have got a midnight basketball game that you've got to play. So we want to let you go so you can get ready for that. Thanks so much for dropping into Washington again. I know we'll have you up here at Christmas.